All right, so I'm going to get started with the introduction, then we'll give some people some time to log in. My name is Scott Knudsen. I'm with Signature Home Inspection. We're located in Santa Ana, California. We've been in business for 19 years now, and we've got 5 inspectors, and we cover Orange County, North San Diego County, parts of Riverside, parts of San Bernardino, and then LA County. So we perform home inspections, sewer inspections, commercial inspections. We can do radon testing. We can do pools and spas. We can do mold testing. So if there's an inspection out there that you need and we can't do it, we can probably help you find somebody that can do it. So I'm going to answer questions at the end via Q&A or chat. It's a little bit easier for me to see because when I'm sharing my screen, it's hard for me to see anybody that pops up with a question. So we'll do that at the end, and then I'll give you my contact information as well at the end, along with my email if you have any questions or if you want a copy of this presentation. So we teach several classes here. I think there's probably 6 or 7 that we're teaching on a rotating basis. This is one of the more popular ones that we have, along with managing the home inspection as well as mold. But we've got a few others as well. So be on the lookout for those every month because we're teaching, I think we're doing 1 or 2 a month throughout the rest of the year. Let's see. So let's get started. So this class is avoiding the aggravations of home inspections. So this is some common stuff that comes up during a home inspection that can be aggravating, that can be, cause things to slow down, make the process a little bit longer. And a lot of it can be avoided if there's proper preparation done prior to the inspection. Let's see here. So course objectives on this one, you're going to learn what is involved with a home inspection. Some of you already may know a lot of this, how best to prepare for the seller for the home inspection, what sellers can do to assist for a successful home inspection, how best to prepare the buyer for the home inspection, how to advise buyers in light of a defect found on an inspection, and how to make sure a home inspection doesn't necessarily kill the deal unnecessarily. I am in a hotel, so I'm up here actually in Vegas doing a home inspection conference. We have to do these to get our continuing education, and typically Vegas is the closest one. So I'm actually supposed to be in a conference, but I had these classes scheduled long before they had set that. So if you can't hear me or see me, just let me know. I'll try to adjust the light, but I think from what I can see, everything looks good. So. All right, so let's go through this. So home inspections are a normal part of the home buying process. I think home inspections have been around, let's see, we've been doing it for 19 years, and it's probably been doing, probably started about another 20 years before that, where it probably wasn't as extensive as it is today. The reports look nothing like what they used to do back in the day. I remember when I started, it was just starting to go from paper, written carbon copies over to a digital report where you could insert photos. Now, most of the reports will come on a software that's on like an app that's on our phone. So if you ever see a home inspector and you think he's looking at Facebook or Instagram while he's doing the inspection, he's actually entering the data and taking the pictures on his phone or Apple device or iPad or what have you, whatever the device that they use. So with proper preparation, common issues and delays can be avoided, and that helps everybody to speed this process up. So what we're going to go through, so avoiding, sorry, I got to keep moving this around. It keeps blocking my screen. So we're going to prepare the home and the buyer. We want to talk about maintaining your professional image and avoiding common aggravations and delays in the inspection buying process. So one of the first steps of this process is the scheduling of the inspections. So first of all, you need to let the buyer know what they know that they may need to delay scheduling until it's certain that all utilities are on. So that's one of the biggest things that we see out there is that we try to ask this question when we're taking the order, are the utilities on? We want to make sure all the utilities are on, because if there's something that's not on, say for example, gas, that restricts our access to being able to inspect the water heater fully, testing the hot water. If there's a gas range, And some of this stuff is something where you can't turn it on while you're on site, because if the gas company has locked the meter, there's no way to turn that on. And then home inspectors are not typically there to turn utilities on or turn the valves on because of liability reasons. The main thing is that we just don't know why it's off. It could be off because there's a leak somewhere in the house and nobody's aware of it. So that would be the number one thing, is make sure that the utilities are on, so we can actually perform the inspection. And please don't expect the inspector to do that, because that's not their scope to be able to turn that stuff on. Same with lighting pilots. If there's a water heater that needs the pilot lit, we know how to light them, but again, we don't typically light those, because if it's off, there's usually a reason why that we might not know. Plus, even if we did light it at the beginning of the inspection, most likely, if it's a 50-gallon hot water tank, it's not going to heat that water up fast enough before we leave. So doing this kind of stuff will save everybody time. If we have to come back, there is a return trip fee. Even though you're scheduling the inspection, you're actually scheduling time. It's a time slot on our schedule. And if we have to come back, we have to make arrangements to come back, and that takes up another time slot. So there is most companies will charge a return trip fee if they have to come back and turn everything on, or not after everything's been turned on. So it's best to make sure. Now, I know that there's some times where we hear this, where it will say the listing agent told me it was on. But what happens is, a lot of times we'll go out there and it might have been on the last time the listing agent was there 3 or 4 days ago, but since then it's probably turned off. So it's always good to follow up to make sure that it's been turned on, because like I said, it slows the process down. So make sure that everything's turned on. Also, the other thing that we notice a lot of is that sometimes the buyers are not prepared for what an actual home inspection is and what a home inspector does. Some home buyers think that the inspection is more thorough than what it actually is. They just have to keep in mind that we are home inspectors. We're not licensed contractors. We're not licensed electricians. We're not licensed plumbers. There is no such thing as a home that is perfect. So if you can prepare them for what they're going to see when they get an inspection report, and help them understand the process. So say, for example, you go out and tell your buyer, say, okay, so this is what the process is. The home inspector is going to come out. He's going to do the inspection. At the end of the inspection, he's going to do a review with you. He's going to go over his findings, and then we're going to get a report. Once we get that report, then we'll evaluate it together, and then we can decide if we want to move forward, if we want to ask for repairs, if we want to ask for credit. If you go through that process with your clients, it makes the process a lot easier. It also cushions the news of anything that's less than perfect. As we do our reviews as home inspectors on my team, we try to present our findings in a non-alarmist manner. So we're trying to, we're not there to scare anybody, but we still need to communicate our findings. So what we try to do is we try to touch the highlights of what we found. During the review, we're not going to be able to go over everything, because there's a lot of maintenance steps that we'll recommend in our reports. For example, if the gutters need to be cleaned, we'll still put that in the report, but is that necessarily a reason that they have to go back and ask the seller to do that? It's more of a maintenance item, but we still want to make sure they put it in there so they're aware that that needs to be done. So that's the other thing, is, make sure that they're aware of, hey, this is the inspector's going to come out. He is going to find stuff. That's what he's there for. So if you do that beforehand, it'll, prepare the buyer for the news when it comes out. Expectations may vary based on the newness of the house and the condition of the home when toured. So for example, if you went through the home, when you did a walkthrough before you put an offer in, the newness of that house, when they see it, it could look a lot differently than when we do the inspection. So say, for example, when they put an offer on, the sellers or the tenants may move out, and then it looks totally different when they come in and do the inspection. So some homes will have lower expectations than others. Sometimes we get into a house where it is just beat up. It's been a hoarder house. People have been smoking in it. Whatever the reason is that, depending on what the buyer's comfort level is as far as the home, we take that into account as well. So if it's a home that's 5 years old and there's been they just have not maintained the home, we may find more stuff. I've been in homes that are 10 years old, and it looks like it's been around for 30 years because nothing's been maintained. So just because it's new doesn't mean that there's not going to be some items that are going to come up. You will just never know until you do an inspection. Usually what I do is when I'm scheduled to do an inspection, I always do my research on the home. So I'll pull it up on one of the websites and I'll look through the photos, and that kind of gives me an idea of what I'm getting into before I get to the inspection. Sometimes if I feel like I need to bring another inspector with me because it doesn't look like it's in that good a shape and we're going to be time crunched for our next appointment, sometimes I'll bring somebody with me or an assistant, and that way we can have a good idea of it. So anyway, prepare the buyer for what these are. So that's basically what this is about. Keep in mind, no home is perfect, even new ones. So this was the ridge vent on a new home. You can see the subpar workmanship there on the top. If you were on the ground, you would probably never see this unless you actually get up on the roof. So that's the importance of having a home inspection, because you can catch stuff like this. So this is an actual ridge vent that they just took some 10 snips to it and just cut it, and it just wasn't a very good job there. So you can see here, if a rodent was ever, or a bird was ever out on the roof, they could actually get into the attic from there, and this could also leak as well. The other thing too is inspection agreements. Please prepare your buyer to let them know that once the inspection is scheduled, they're going to receive an inspection agreement or a contract that is between the home inspection company and the home inspector. If your current home inspectors are not having these signed, there's a good chance they're not insured. Our insurance companies that handle E&O and general liability for home inspectors require this to be signed before we go out to the property. It used to be where they were okay with us getting it signed on site or getting it signed when they access the report. Now they are saying that we have to have it signed prior to. So the way our process is once the inspection goes into the schedule, an automatic email will go out to your client with the way that they can pay with a credit card if they want, and then it will also give them a link to their inspection agreement. Basically, an inspection agreement is a contract between the buyer and the inspector, explains what items are not inspected, helps the buyer know the scope of the inspection, and helps to eliminate surprises and confusions. And it also has a clause in there where it helps to limit liability for the inspector and the real estate agent. It's basically a hold harmless clause. So we've gotten really strict on this because our insurance company, we don't want to have a claim come up and get rejected because this wasn't signed prior to the inspection. So we usually request that this be done within 24 hours of when they schedule the inspection. If it's not signed, we'll do a follow-up email. If we don't get it signed from there, then there's a good chance that we may cancel it and take it off the schedule, because in our experience is if it doesn't get signed, it's not a priority, or they're not sure they're going to go through with the contract. So for example, we had an inspection scheduled today for 10 o'clock. We've had it on the schedule for a week, but we could not get the client to sign the inspection agreement. And the only reason why I let it go that long is because it was a friend of one of our top realtors that we work with. And it come to happen where at 7 o'clock last night, they sent us an email saying that the inspection's not going to happen today. So the problem with that is on our end as a business, we don't have enough time to fill that slot. And we just missed out on some revenue because we didn't have enough time to fill that slot. My guys can't work. So we try to really get this signed early on in the ordering process. And so it's something that when you, as a realtor, if you're going to call in and make an appointment, or you're going to go on our online scheduler and schedule it, please provide the client information. We don't need yours in this. We need the client's full name. We need their email. We need their phone. We don't, sometimes realtors will put their information there. The only way we can accept the realtor's information if they want the report underneath their name. So I just ask you as realtors to, help us get this process. It makes the process go a lot quicker. So this is something that has to be done prior to the inspection. All right, so what's next? Your reaction to the inspection. So if you are there, your reaction to things can influence the inspection positively or negatively. So something where your demeanor is going to rub off on your client's demeanor. So one thing would be relax. When you're there, read a magazine, help buyer take measurements. discuss closing, let the inspector answer questions. So it's not time to sugarcoat things. It's not time to, kind of get stressed out, because it does impact the buyers. The other thing that, I don't know if it's in this slide, but the other thing I recommend is that when it's the home inspection, the less people that are there, the better. So what I'm saying is that during a home inspection, the ideal situation would be is for the home inspector, the immediate buyers, or the buyers, not their whole family, and then the buyer's agent be the only ones at the inspection. If you start bringing contractors, father-in-laws, mother-in-laws, the whole family and kids, that slows down the inspection and it stresses out the buyer. I don't know how many times I've had a mother-in-law or father-in-law just start saying, oh, that's not right. Oh, that's bad. And before you know it, you're having to talk your buyer back into, going through with the sale. That wouldn't have needed to happen if they weren't there during the inspection. That's fine if they want to come see the property, but my recommendation would be is schedule a separate meeting for that, where it's not done during the home inspection. Because if it's a home inspection, everybody that's coming to that inspection, they're going to be looking for things to find wrong. And it's better for them to get the information from us, where we can kind of control the message delivery, versus having a father-in-law and mother-in-law nitpicking the house and telling their kids how bad it is. So keep that in mind. It will make things go a lot smoother. If a smile is contagious, then nervousness is completely infectious. So that's kind of where we're going back to that. So everybody should be happy, calm, let the process take place and everything will get through it. So be calm if you visit or stay during the inspection. If you are nervous, then the buyer may get the feeling that something is wrong, or that there is some big secret about the home. So again, I'm not saying everybody goes out there and does that, but we've dealt with that before, where there's just people who are just stressed. And I understand it's a stressful process to go through this with buying a house and spending that kind of money. But anyway, so all right, so back to the avoiding common aggravations. So utilities not on. So we're going to go through some of these. So this is the water meter, a typical water meter out by the street. This is not a lock that they use today. They use one now that is almost impossible to get off. Like this one, you could easily cut it with a bolt cutter, but they don't make these anymore. So if we ever see this, we're just going to say, hey, we're not able to test the plumbing or turn the water on because it's locked out the city street. So in this instance, usually when they lock it, there's usually going to be a past water bill, and the water company will not turn that on until that past water bill has been paid, regardless. In my experience, that's what I've seen. So again, this is something you'd want to make sure that you take care of. This is going to be a gas meter. Again, theirs don't look like this anymore. They basically got a metal casing that goes around this whole thing, then they have it locked because they don't want people to turn them off. So if we ever come across this, again, that's the gas being shut off. So if you're ever in the neighborhood prior to the inspection, you could always swing by, quickly look at this kind of stuff to make sure. And that way, when for sure that everything's on. Let's see this one. I need to take this picture out. I haven't used this one for a while. Utilities not on. The next one that we run into is objects in the way. So storage, excessive storage that's not moved. So for example, this is in a garage, attic access blocked due to storage. So there's I don't know if it's this picture or the next one. So this would be the next one. So here you've got a lot of storage in the garage. This is fine. I mean, if we come in, this is very common. We're going to see this in a garage. But keep in mind that, when there's a lot of storage in here, it does restrict our access. So for example, we might not be able to see the floor underneath all this. We might not be able to see the wall behind all this. So as inspectors, we're going to document that, hey, there was excessive storage in the garage. We're going to take a picture of it so we can note that, there was some restricted access, that we couldn't see everything. It's not the home inspector's job to move this stuff to the side. I've had clients and realtors say, let me know before you go into a certain room and I'll move the stuff that you need moved. it's going to make that inspection is going to take 5-6 hours if that's the process. So it's just going to have to, again, set the expectations. It's a visual inspection. We're not going to be able to see everything. But the recommendation would be is during your final walkthrough, we have as part of our inspection report, we have a walkthrough checklist. We uploaded it as an attachment. So when you go to access the report, they can actually download that walkthrough checklist, and they can actually use that during your final walkthrough to check everything off. If there's something that's out of place, that's a concern, you want to make sure that gets brought up after the walkthrough so you can actually address that before the close. This next picture would be somewhere where here's an attic access, and we've got storage and a motorcycle. We're not able to get up there unless we have this stuff moved. So if this is the case, again, liability reasons, we're not able to move this stuff. If the seller is there, we can typically ask them to do it. If the listing agent feels comfortable with it, but on the buyer side, we typically should not be touching or moving any personal items. So if this was not able to be moved, we would have to make a note that the attic was restricted. We weren't able to inspect it. If the buyer wanted us to come back, there's going to be a separate charge for that. So it's not the full price, but there is a return trip fee if we have to come back. Obstructions. So this is an electrical panel blocked by drywall and a washing machine. So you can't really see the washing machine. So the washing machine is going to probably be underneath this. And then you can see how the drywall has gone over the panel. So this is a panel that we would not be able to get off. One, because we don't have safe access to it, because we'd have to be leaning over a washing machine. And that's just not something you want to do with electrical. And then if the drywall is painted over this. So another thing we see a lot is we see panels inside that have been painted over. I have directed my guys not to score those panels unless we have written approval from the seller that it's okay to do that. And even then, we don't like to do it because it damages the wall. So if you have a house and you're thinking of painting the house, please don't paint over these panels. Pull the panel off first, and then you can paint, and then you put it on after it dries. But we see that a lot. So if we see that, then that restricts our access to the panel. This is attic access in a closet with built-in storage. Again, I don't know how big you guys are, but you'd have to be really thin and skinny and small to be able to get up through that access. So typically what I'll try to do is, if this is the case, I'll try to at least get my head up through there, and maybe even a video camera so I can kind of somewhat scan the attic, but it doesn't give us full access. And we see this quite a bit as well. They don't put these attic accesses in bedroom closets anymore because they know that it gets obstructed once shelves get put in, storage gets put in. You know, even if all this stuff was taken out, this was a permanent shelf. There was no way to get into that attic unless we dismantled that shelf. So attic blocked by a shelf full of items, seller should have cleared the area and made access. So if you're on the listing side, maybe you have some sort of sheet that you're going to go over with your buyer or your seller to make sure that there's adequate access. Sometimes the seller doesn't think about it. They're thinking, well, they might not even know what a home inspection is or what they need access to. So as a real estate agent, you'd want to educate them on that. Delays can be avoided by asking the sellers to remove anything blocking access, having areas blocked or sealed off, leave a buyer with questions and doubts, such as what is underneath there. For example, if there's a crawl space that we can't get into for, maybe there's a bunch of water down there, or there's some environmental issues like dead animals underneath there, or cats where they've been using it as a bathroom and it's environmentally, or we get down there and there's mold, or the door's not big enough. There are different reasons why we can't get into certain things. And then they say, well, was it, what's underneath there? What blocked off on, was it blocked off on purpose? It starts creating doubt. So the more we have access to, the better we can inspect. So here's a few of the other ones. So we've kind of gone over the utilities, objects in the way. The next one would be pets, especially dogs. Our recommendations are, or what we request is that the pets be removed during the inspection or put in cages or crates. I don't typically like to deal with people that say, not that I don't like to deal with, but we have people that will say a lot of times say, when you're outside, I will put the dogs in the garage, and when you come inside, I'll put them outside. The problem with that is that we need unfettered access so we can get in and out. So if I go into the garage and I'm looking through the garage, I might have already done the outside. I come in the garage and I see where it looks like there's some water damage, and I'm trying to figure out what area might cause that. So once I see that, then I need to go back outside and look in that specific area so I can see if there's something going on. Well, if they've already moved the pets outside, well, then now I got to go back to the seller or whoever's there and say, hey, can you move this pet to another spot? Because I need to go back outside. So I think you kind of know where I'm going with that. It's just not, we need unfettered access. It's just one of these things where we just don't want to have to go back and forth moving, dogs around. So also, we hear this a lot, spec, not vicious, but very active. There's been times where we get people to say, oh, our dog loves everybody. They don't do anything. They're just going to probably sniff you. I don't like getting those calls where we put that in the notes and my home inspector calls me up and says, that dog just bit me. What am I supposed to do? I've got a dog, and my dog loves everybody, pretty much ignores every other pet, doesn't really care about them. But for some odd reason, when it sees a white poodle, she goes crazy. She doesn't like white poodles for whatever reason. But I don't know. It's just how animals are. So don't assume that the dog is going to like everybody. So it's better just to get them out of there. So if the pets are in the home, ask the seller to put pets in cages, tie them outside away from the home, or take them out on the town or for a walk. Tying the angry dog near the crawl space entrance does not help much either. Also place notes where the pets are contained. So the other thing that we will see is we come into a house and there will be signs on the door that said, cat, don't let cats out. Please make sure you close the doors. Well, the problem with that is that me as the inspector, I can follow that direction, but I can't make sure that somebody that's coming in behind me, like a buyer, buyer's parents, buyer's kids, that will do the same thing. So it's just better just to have them caged or taken so they don't have a chance of getting out and running away. So. All right, so let's see here. Even friendly cats can be an issue. So I've been in houses where I've gone into like a master bedroom. I think the last time this happened, I was in the master bedroom and I was checking plugs and I was kind of over by the bed. And before you know it, I see these claws come reaching out from underneath the bed with this angry hiss and just scratching at my leg. And I jumped. I've never jumped so high because I didn't know that it was underneath there. And she did not want me in that room. And it was just like, I just got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'll go back and do that room. I said, but you got to remove that cat. Because my only defense against the claws is using my feet, and I don't want to hurt anybody. So, it's just, I had no idea what was going on. So, let's see here. So there's cat kept getting out. Feel free to use my email on your webpage. I don't know why this one's in there. I forgot about that one. All right. So weather can also impact the inspection. So a lot of times people will call us and say, oh, it's scheduled to rain tomorrow. Should we reschedule? I usually say no. I like it when it rains because that helps us see if there's any leaks. The only negative to rain is that it slows us down a little bit because like I said earlier, we're entering data on our iPad or on our phone. And when it's wet, it's a little bit hard to enter. So a lot of times with rain, I'll either have an umbrella or I'll just set up in the garage and then kind of go around, snap my photos and then go back to the garage and enter information. In California, we don't have any problems with snow. But unless you're up in Lake Arrowhead or whatever, but if say, for example, we're doing a cabin in Big Bear and the roof is full of snow, we'll have to document that we wasn't able to fully inspect the roof because it was covered with snow. Heat, probably my least favorite right now. It seems like the summers are getting hotter and hotter. And, with the heat, I especially in California sun, I typically will go around the house. And then when I'm trying to put notes in, I'll just make sure I'm putting myself in the shade to cool off. There's going to be houses that are going to be in an area where At the time of built, there was no ACs. Even in Huntington Beach, sometimes we'll see houses that have no AC. And if there's it just even during the hot summer, if the windows haven't been opened, it's hot. It slows us down when it's really hot like that. So nope. But we have no control of the weather. So let the clients know that I and some other inspectors are willing to return if needed. And instead, some charge extra, some don't. But most of the multi inspectors, where we've got people that are on payroll, if it's going to take a time slot and we have to pay them to go back out, there's going to be a charge to go back out. There are other things sellers can do to help the inspection go smoothly, other than making things areas accessible. A couple other things is I would not recommend ask the sellers not to mop the floors in the bathrooms prior to inspection. Sure, the house will look clean, but if not yet completely dry, it may show up on the moisture meter. So we have moisture meters. If we suspect that there's an area that may be leaking, we put the moisture meter down there, and the floor's been recently mopped, it's gonna have a false hit. We also have infrared that we'll utilize in the bathrooms around water sources. If the floors are recently been wet, you can actually see that with an infrared. So, they don't need to be clean in the house for us just to do the inspection. Recommend removing firewood. It's being stored within and on the exterior of the home. So this is termite bait right here. If you're going to have any type of firewood, don't put it in the garage. Don't put it up against the house. Put it away from the house, maybe on the back block wall or something. You don't want to put it in the house or up against the house. It attracts termites, and then once the termites get there, then they start moving into the house. Also, firewood often carries wood-destroying insects that can infest the home. So again, if there's any firewood, recommend moving it away from the exterior of the house or inside of the house. Ask the homeowner to put covers on plates, junction boxes, and outlets. These are common write-ups that we see. For example, this one right here, I would say there's on this picture at least 2 write-ups. So, well, there's going to be 4 actually on this one. So on this one, it's going to be a loose junction box. It's going to be a junction box that doesn't have a cover on it. It's going to be wiring that's loose, because they're not secured. And then over here, it looks like there might be a wire connection that doesn't have a junction box. So just this right here, there's 4 write-ups right there. So doing this type of stuff is very inexpensive to do, and makes the report look a lot cleaner. The report, understand the report, understand how to read the report, actually read the report. In our system, when we send it out, we know when somebody's opened the report. It tells us when somebody's opened the report based on the email that is attached to your account. So we've had times where people have moved in 3 months later and they're saying this was missed on the inspection. And we'll go back and it will be in the inspection. And then what I do next is I'll go look at the delivery and when they read it. And there's been times where they didn't even open the report. They just assumed that it was missed. So, just make sure you're glancing at the report. We color code ours and color. So what we do is in our report is that we categorize them and we color code them. So anything that would be blue would be maintenance items. Anything that's orange would be recommended repairs or further evaluation. And then anything red would be health or safety. So as a realtor, you should at least go through those orange and red and see if there's anything that's major that's going to come up that could scare your buyer or needs to be addressed. And then also do not assume all things mentioned are major or even importance to the buyer. An electrician may care very little about electrical issues. So, know your buyer, know what they're comfortable with. I've seen people freak out over houses not having GFCIs, even though they were not required at the age of build. But when we try to explain that to them, we let them know that it wasn't required then, but it would be a good idea to install them today. It's not something to be required, but people will sometimes think, oh, I'm not going to buy the house unless that's done. Some other people will say, I don't care about that kind of stuff. So you just can't assume that what's in the report is going to, everybody's going to feel the same about it. Remember, if you think it is major, then that feeling will influence the buyer. So I always get people on site that will ask me, is there anything that's major wrong with the house? I don't like that question, because what's major for one person isn't major for somebody else. So kind of what I was talking about earlier, for me, what would be major would be is if the house needs a new roof, if there's structural issues, if there's environmental issues that have come up. Say, for example, I go up in the attic and there's a rodent infestation that's going to cost $10,000 to remedy. If there are mechanical systems are old. If I get into a house and the mechanical systems are 40 years old, they're due for a new system. They might be working, but they could go at any time, and there's not going to be any type of warranty on them. Even if you have a home warranty, you need to understand the limitations of that home warranty, because some of the home warranties that I've read will not cover appliances or heaters or ACs after 10 years. You have to understand what your warranty covers and what the fine print is. So that's pretty much it on this class. So that's just some of the aggravations, avoiding the aggravations. It's just basically preparing the home for the inspection. So if you guys have any questions, this slide doesn't have my contact information, but my company name again is Signature Home Inspection. Our phone number is 888-860-2688. If you are interested in, if you have questions or you want to order inspection, you could go that route. You can also book online. We have a 24/7 booking scheduler on our website that basically gives you our full schedule, what times are available, what inspectors available. That's probably the easiest way to book, because you can just pick a time, a date, talk it through and say, okay, we're going to take that one. And then once that gets entered, it will start the chain of the automated emails that go out and gets everything set up for the inspection. So that website is www.signaturemore.com. My email, if you have any questions or want to copy this presentation, it's scott@signaturemore.com. So that's it for this class. Let me go through here and see if there's any if there's any questions. All right. Well, hopefully you guys think this was useful. If you, like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, have a good day and have a good weekend coming up. Thanks, everybody.